In this video, you will learn how to develop a credit scoring model to help you evaluate any company's credit risk, especially small and medium enterprises. Let's start with a little history. Credit scoring methodologies modeling becomes an actual science starting from the 60s. Despite all of the previous studies, Edward Altman is considered the founder, with his famous paper about Z-score methodology written in 1968, outlining a guide for a formally correct model development. The fundamental elements defined by Professor Altman are still valid and can be summarized in the three following macro phases. First, collecting the data companies, which should allow an historical analysis too. The data must be related not only to active companies, but also to companies that have failed, default and non-default entities. Second, applying methodologies to obtain a score for each company. Last and third, testing the results and eventually reviewing the process, starting from the data collection. Let's now go deeper, starting from the testing phase. An analysis model can be considered accurate if it properly discriminates the votes assigned to defaulted companies compared to those assigned to non-defaulted ones. Try to imagine the sample composed by good and bad companies and assign them two distributions of scores. The ideal situation would be that the two groups were totally separate. Clearly, this never happens, and as far as you try to limit them, each model produces two kinds of error: type 1 and type 2 errors. Type 1 error is related to the percentage of failed companies classified as non-failed, also known as false positive findings. Vice versa, type 2 error is related to the percentage of companies classified as bankrupt when they are still active, also known as false negative finding. It is clear that the first error is more dangerous than the second one. But how do you properly measure these two errors? Commonly, rating agencies consider the ROC curve the best testing tool. ROC stands for Receiver Operating Characteristic. Beyond specific, this curve will appear as this. The more the curve is round and tends to the upper left corner, the more accurately the model divides failed and non-failed companies. The area subtended by the curve, with a numerical index between 0 and 1, reflects the accuracy of the model. It reaches 0.9 to 1 in case of great accuracy. Let's now go back to the data collection to understand which data should be used to feed an efficient credit scoring model. This phase is very sticky. Complete and reliable data do influence in a positive way the quality of the model developed. Therefore, the sample should be strongly representative from many points of view: geographical, historical, and size. Furthermore, the sample must reflect proportionally to both defaulted and non-defaulted companies. Let's pay attention to time lag. There is often a delay between the production of a given fact and its availability. Think of the annual accounts. Those related to the last day of the year often become available after several months after the filing. If a model does not consider this delay, it would produce strong distortion in the time horizon of the probability of default. Talking about the kind of data used, let's try to divide them into three categories. First, quantitative and qualitative data from public certified sources. Second, quantitative and qualitative data freely available on the internet. Third, private data. The first category includes financial figures, information about stakeholders and board members, market trends, and macroeconomic data. In Europe, this information is normally available as XMLs that can be easily produced. The second one is mainly represented by social media, websites, and newspapers. Due to the large amount of this data, issues linked to the homonyms and the difficulties of extracting information from natural language sentences, this category is the most difficult to analyze numerically. Very often, it is subject to human revision. The last category, private data, includes non-public data made available by private systems, for example, credit bureaus or data providers, by the company itself via the business plan, or collected by lending companies during the applicant registration phase. In addition to the profiling, you can obtain other relevant information, such as the applicant's IP address. All the collected data will be useful not only to prevent from the insolvency risk, but also for frauds and anti-money laundering. Once the initial collection has been completed, we can proceed by applying algorithms to assign a credit score to each company. In the past, different numerical methods have been proposed to achieve a satisfactory result, so just use the one that satisfies you more. However, my 2 cents. First, do not use variables before having transformed them into something more useful to deal with. Several Falkenstein papers explain scientifically how to do it. Whatever path you choose, keep in mind that the world is not linear. An increase in return on equity from plus 28 to plus 30% does not have the same importance as the one from minus 1 to plus 1%. Second, use a flexible and self adaptive methodology. The world is constantly changing, and we need an approach that allows us to change the use of variables or recalibrate the parameters in a simple way. We recommend you to use artificial intelligence models. Thanks to AI, we can simulate a risk analysis process that could be implemented by a credit analyst, and at the same time, we can leverage large amount of data and then dynamically adjust the values. For example, according to the sector or country economical dynamics. Third, be clear and use transparent methodologies. Nobody likes black boxes, and the analysis results should be understandable, especially as a person itself takes the final decision to grant a funding. Finally, back to where we started. Remember that rating and scoring models are alive. They must be constantly validated, tested, and eventually recalibrated.